Okay, with the turkey that we done, I'm going to make bone stock or broth or whatever. So anyhow, with that, I've got my book here that I wrote, The Ultimate Preserving Guide to Fill Your Pantry. And that has the directions and recipe and all that stuff to do with your bone stock. So I'm going to use the turkey. Okay, so I got the carcass here. And then I got the neck down in there and the... looks like the thigh bone I put down in there. I already can't remember what it's called. But to start it here, I'm going to place the bones in a large pot and cover with cold water. Bring to a boil 20 minutes. Well, this is the biggest pot I got, with the exception of my water bathing pot. And I might have sort of broke that because I tried to bring a bump out of it. So I got to get a new one of those. So anyhow, with that, I got the bones in here. I'm going to do my best to... I'll have to flip this over part way through, but I got bones in there. So anyhow, it says let it boil for 20 minutes, and that blanches them, and then I got to drain them. And then after that, I'll move the blanched bones to a roasting pan and roast them for 30 minutes, and that brings out more of the flavor from the marrow and all of that good stuff that's in there. So for now, we're just going to do some boiling on this and get this done. Okay. So the bones have been boiling about 20 minutes. I flipped this over partway through, that way it was good and boiled over. So I'm going to take them and transfer them from the boiling water to the roasting pan. Now, normally if they were smaller I would strain them, but this bone is gigantic because of the turkey carcass. So let me get them moved. Okay, see if I can't do this without scorching the crap out of myself. Probably not. Definitely not. Yeah, that looks super delicious. Do y'all see that? Turkey carcass. Let me get the rest of the stuff out. Okay, so here I got the turkey neck. See it? There it goes. I'm going to throw it in there so it can get its roast on. And then I've got the thigh bone. Here, I'm going to throw it down in here. This will just help pull all of the extra stuff that's in the bones and the marrow and all that good stuff. So, get that, put it in the oven, and it's going to roast for 30 minutes. So, when that's over with, we'll take the next step. Okay, found a different pot, so hopefully this carcass fits down in there better. But I roasted the bones. So, let me see the difference in them here. Put them down in the water, add my carcass in there, and then 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. The vinegar will help to pull out all of the nutrients and everything from the bones. So put this all together in here. It's not much pulling out with that. I might have to chop these up a little. Anyhow, this says for half an hour with the vinegar soaking, so let me get the vinegar in this. Okay, so I was able to bust the carcass up into a little bit smaller, manageable type pieces. I mean, it's crazy how much softer it gets after it sets through a boil and then a roast in the oven. So, this is technically 2 batches going here because it's more than 2 pounds worth of bones. So, it calls for 1 gallon of water to 2 tablespoons of vinegar. So, I'm going to do 2 gallons of water to about 4 tablespoons of vinegar. And, the vinegar will help pull, oh my goodness, all the nutrients and stuff out of the bones. Now it sits for half hour in this pan here. I gotta finagle it around and put the bones back down in there. But half an hour in this, and then I'll start to boil it. Just so this vinegar can do its work. But everything is down in here. There we go. There we go. Yeah. Now I'll let it sit for another 30 minutes, and then we'll get started on the boiling and adding the veggies and seasonings. Okay, so the bones have been sitting for about a half hour or so in the vinegar water there. So now it's time to turn it on, and it says here, while the bones are sitting, go ahead, rough chop your onions, carrots, celery. I don't like celery, so I don't have celery, so I'm skipping that part. But, and then throw them in here with your stuff. So, I was told to leave my skin on my onions because it just kind of helps make it a darker broth stock, whatever. You can use whatever veggies you want, whatever you're comfortable with. Don't use something starchy though, so like no taters. So anyhow, and then I'll add these in and then add the seasonings in that I want, which my recipe up here says, you know, some salt and some peppercorns, and I'll put the garlic in at the end, because when you put your garlic in toward the end, it actually gives it a stronger garlic flavor. So, there you go. And this would be better if it had peelings, but I don't have those either, because I wasn't anticipating killing my turkey yet. Anyhow, this is Celtic sea salt here, so add however much you think you're going to want. Okay. It's a very wet salt, but it's so good. And that's probably a lot. Okay, and then some peppercorns, and then if you want other herbs or spices in there, like some parsley or whatever, I pretty much just stick to this. We're pretty basic, oh my, kind of people here. I mean, when I first got married, I didn't even know anything but salt and pepper. So, adding anything otherwise would be unheard of with me. No. Anyhow, turn it on, you bring it to a good boil, good rigorous boil, and then cover it. And turn it down to simmer. If you don't cover it, you're just going to burn all the water off of it, evaporate it all up anyhow. So you want to let simmer. It's going to take at least 12 hours, usually around 24. But I'll get it boiling here real good, and then I'll turn it down. But make sure you put the lid on it. First time I made stock, I didn't put the lid on it, and then I just had stuff in the bottom of my pan and no broth because, well, I boiled it all out. You know, you live, you learn, I guess. Anyhow, I'm going to get this here going for a good rigorous boil, and we'll take her from there. Okay, so I'm good at a good boil here going. So you cover the pan over, and then turn it down to simmer. That way, then, it is left to go to its own devices within the first 2 hours of it. So that'll be by 9:30 tonight. I will take and do and skim off any of the foam and floaty stuff, but not the veggies and the stuff like that. So I'll skim it off, keep the broth fairly clean. Otherwise, I don't do nothing. Don't stir it. No matter how much you want to put your stick down in there and stir it, don't stir it. And don't let it come to a boil anymore, because when you do that, it will make it a cloudy stock, and that's not what you're going for when you think of stock. So anyhow, now I'm just done. I'll check it again here in a bit, see if there's anything floating on it, and then we'll let it start cooking down. Okay, so we're just barely moving along, but you can see the stock is starting to change some color. Well, you could see. There you go. But there ain't much happening. Ain't really got nothing floating. No frothiness or nothing, but I'm at about an hour in almost, so one more hour, check and scrape off. But yeah, it's getting to be a different color to it, where it's simmering down. Don't stir it, especially after hour 2. Okay, the broth is almost finished, so now it is time that I am going to start adding in some garlic. If you put the garlic in at the end of its cooking cycle, it makes it a stronger flavor. So I'm just putting in a couple smaller bulbs worth that I grown. So I'm just going to mash it up here, peel it off. So anyhow, take your garlic. It's easier to peel it if you mash it a little. At least it is for me, because I ain't figured out an easy way yet. So anyhow, as you can see, peeled right off there. And then I'm just throwing these cloves right down in the stock there, and then as soon as it's going good again, I've got about maybe 2-3 hours left on it, and then I'm just going to can it up, or straighten it out, can it up, and all that stuff, because I think it's been cooking plenty long enough. So, let me throw these in there. Okay, you can see it's a much, much darker color than it was. And It's boiled down a lot here. You can see the line where the water was, and that's with leaving the lid on it. So, but it's a dark color. Hopefully it's not going to be cloudy because I had it on like number 2 instead of low, and it was kind of lightly boiling. So that might be a difference in it. But otherwise, there's my stock almost finished. Okay, so I have strained out the stock, and this is what I've got left. Big old mess of just, you know, very brittle, soft bones. See? And then this is the clear stock I have right here. I'm going to heat this back up, and then I'll put it into hot jars and I'll stick it in the canner. But that is my beautiful broth. This here can go, you know, out to be scraps or whatever. Pull the meat out. You know what I'm saying? You know, there's lots of options here. Can't really give the onions to the dogs, but everything else can go to the dogs. But I did strain it through a cheesecloth and a strainer. I just forgot that I was videoing it and done did it. But yeah, that's it right there. Then we get it heated and put it in some jars. Okay, so you can see we're steaming. It's hot. I've got the canner going so that it's also hot. And then in the oven, I have jars heated. That was hot broth, hot jars to hot canner so that I don't break anything because it will shock it. Okay, so I got a dipping thing here. Got my funnel on my jar. Move it over. Fill this up. You don't need to add salt because there's already salt in the stock. You know, put a couple inches of water in your canner because it's a pressure canner, so it does not be full all the way. I'm gonna go up to about a 1/2 inch of head space here. Yeah, it's an inch-ish, but you know, it's fine. Anyhow, get your canner or your jar down here. Spin it, it's hot. Here's like a 1/4 inch, and then it scrolls around the, down here will be about a 1/2 inch, and then down here is about your inch. There you go, 1/2 inch of head space. And then you got to wipe your rims. That way you're clean. Wiping the rims will prevent, well, we'll keep it from sealing, I guess. Keeps the debris and everything off the top, and it will allow for it to seal. So just go completely around, wipe it real good. If it's a sticky substance, go ahead, feel free to use like a dampened cloth or a cloth with some vinegar in it, paper towels, whatever. It don't matter. And then take your cannon lids. I have regular mouth lids for a regular mouth jar. This is your flat or your lid, whatever you want to call it. It just sits right on top of there, and then you got to put your band on it. Okay, so finger tight, just right. Remember, everything here is very hot, very hot. Jar's liquid, and then the canner is steaming also, which means it's also hot. So take your jar lifter, unless you have like callous hands and no feeling, which I've lost, so let me find it again. I lose everything. It's like tape with wrapping presents. Anyhow, take your jar lifter. This is how you pick up with it. This is your handle up here. It's plastic, kind of rolls, no grippy. Down here is your rubber grip that's kind of the rounded shape that will fit right over top of your jars, and that's how you pick it up. Grips it, hangs onto it, and then just set it down into your canner. Like I said, with a couple inches of water in the bottom. I usually fill it to the middle knuckle of my middle finger. I won't show you because it's rude. Anyhow, get another jar out, fill it again, do it the same. And then these are quart jars, so I will process these in a canner for 25 minutes. Okay, I got 4 quarts out of that mess of stock there. And you can see the jars are placed in here where there is space in between them so that they don't rattle against each other and bust while they're canning here. And now I'm going to put the lid on it. So let me show you how to do that. Okay, here you can see an arrow on this handle. Handle back here doesn't have one. And then on the canner here, let me find it. You have an arrow right there. Can you see it? Yeah, a little bit. Okay, anyhow, the arrows line up. So take this arrow and line it right there with that arrow, and that makes the lid fit right on. And then you just turn it over, and now it's completely locked in place. Like, it ain't coming off. That's the biggest thing about people being afraid of pressure canners, is they think it's going to explode because of pressure. Well, it's not. It's got like several safety mechanisms. This here's one of them. This will open up to help relieve pressure in it. This is your, I don't know what this is called, but it pops up and down, and it'll jiggle around a little bit. And then when pressure's built, it'll actually pop up and stay up. And then it's got a little steamer hole here that will let steam come out. And then you've got where your gauge goes. So this here will steam. You're supposed to vent it for 10 minutes before you start your time. But I don't start time at all until this here has popped up and stayed. So I'll show you what that's like when it happens. Okay, so you can see everything's steaming like crazy over here. And this here little rubber thing has popped up. And this gets the jiggling on it. So it'll pop up here very soon. Maybe. You can see it is steaming out this vent. So I do like the loophole thing, saying, hey, it's steamed the whole time it was trying. I don't wait the full 10 minutes because I'm always afraid it'll go dry. But with just a 25-minute can time, it'll be fine. You see, it's got a jiggle going. And then it'll just stand up when it's ready. Eventually. That's just crazy. This ain't even interesting. But I want... There we go. Done it. So now you can let it vent for 10 minutes or put your weight on it. Or your jiggler. Gauge, whatever. So I use a weighted jiggler. This jiggler itself is 5 pounds of pressure. And then you add 1 ring to it, which is another 5 pounds, making it be 10 pounds for pressure. It's not actually 10 pounds. It just goes right over top of here, like so. And then when it starts jiggling, it'll make like an annoying sound. And that's when you start your timer. Not because that's popped up. It's not till this starts jiggling. If you're using a pressure gauge, then you will wait for it to turn up to the 10 pounds of pressure and leave it there. So we'll just wait for this to start jiggling. Okay, that's the jiggle. Now that it's accomplished that, set the timer 25 minutes. And that is all you need to hear. It don't need to be going completely crazy. Usually at this point, I'll turn it down a wee bit. Just so long as it's got a constant jiggle going, it's good to go. Ooh, I touched the canner. Don't do that. Now, 25 minutes for quarts, 20 minutes for pints. Timer goes off, then you let the pressure drop. Once the pressure drops, this here will drop back down in place. And when that does, then you can open the canner. Until then, we don't open it. So the timer goes off, the pressure will drop, and then we'll open it up and check her out. Okay, so as you can see, it's been off the heat. This has dropped back down now, which means the pressure has been released out of the pan. And this is also back down here. So take this off. No steam coming out, none of that there good stuff. It's still very, very hot, but there's no pressure in it anymore. So you literally just slide it open like so, and then take the lid off. Always open it away from you, that way, because it will steam still. It is very, very hot. So line your arrows up again, and there you go. Woo! Steamy and hot. And then use the jar lifter like I had showed you, and pull them out. And that is a pretty, pretty color of turkey stock, broth, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, so when you place them, just like you put them in the canner, make sure you leave space in between the jars so that there's adequate room for cooling. So as you can see, plenty of space in between. That way they have even cooling room, and then they'll start sealing, and then the job is done. And that is how you can make and can turkey bone stock.